Audrey Unverferth is joining me today. She's a senior at the University of Chicago and recently wrote a piece for the Federalist titled, "Yet Another One of My University of Chicago Peers Was Brutally Murdered by a Stray Bullet in Lori Lightfoot's Crime-Infested City." Audrey, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Now, unfortunately, I wish that you were joining me for a better reason. I wish we could talk about something happier or positive coming out of Chicago. But as your op-ed notes, a crime-infested city that took the life of one of your fellow University of Chicago peers. So can you tell us exactly what happened, how the college community is reacting, and what it's like, quite frankly, to be a college student in, as you point out, a crime-infested city?
Definitely, definitely. And I mean, it was just such a tragedy. It's still just incomprehensible because it's so senseless. Max Lewis was a year younger than me. He was a rising junior at the University of Chicago. He was just thriving in the campus community. I didn't know him personally, but he was just excelling. His name was familiar to me. His face was familiar to me when I started seeing photos of him on social media. I'm sure I passed him on the quad countless times. You know, he was the president of his fraternity. He was double majoring. His friends have come out since his passing and have said he was just such a light in their lives, that he was so kind and humble and fun to be around. And as you've already said, you know, he was viciously murdered. He was living in Chicago over the summer for a prestigious investment banking summer internship. He was on the train, on the Green Line elevated CTA train, like countless other Chicagoans. I've been on that line countless times, and he was going home. He was sitting on the train, and a stray bullet came through the window of his train car and struck him in the back of the neck and killed him. And he was 20 years old, just going home after a long work day.
It's just so heartbreaking. And I read that he was from Denver, Colorado. And, as you just pointed out, he was there, attending an internship. And, as I mentioned earlier, you're a senior at the University of Chicago. How has the city changed since you were a freshman and Mayor Lori Lightfoot was elected in 2019? The election won't be until 2023. So, how has it changed over the last couple of years since you've been attending the college? And also, what do you expect to happen, until she is up for re-election again?
Right. Well, I'm increasingly worried for my safety. You know, I was initially naive when I got to Chicago, and I figured out pretty quickly that there are areas where you absolutely don't go, especially on the South Side. And the University of Chicago is a pretty fortified campus. There are pretty clear boundaries, and I don't go south of campus. And I'm grateful for the University of Chicago Police Department for being so brave and protecting us students on campus. But what's been really frustrating to me these last couple of years is to watch as crime continues to rise. Lightfoot said the other day that crime is on the decline. That's just a lie, and she's been rightly called out for it. Crime is not on the decline. Things are getting much worse. And as they're getting worse, the poor police, who are working so hard to keep us safe, continue to be under attack from Democrats and others in the community. There's even a group on my campus called Care Not Cops that demands that police are removed from campus. They want police officers eradicated from earth. They've led numerous demonstrations with very nasty rhetoric, lots of swearing. And I mean, it's really just been disgusting to see that our few protectors who are doing their very best to try and take care of us are just overwhelmed, and they're not getting the support they need from far too many on campus, and also from Lightfoot, who makes empty promises and has continued to fail to do much of anything.
And something else that she recently said was that, the criticism, and this is her quote, about 99% of her criticism is motivated by racism and sexism. What are your thoughts on that as someone who is living in the city, who is seeing, as we're talking about now, a fellow college student being killed? What do you make of her comments?
I find them just reprehensible. I mean it. And to be clear, this is the second U Chicago student to be shot and viciously murdered in the city of Chicago in 2021. A PhD student in January was gunned down in a parking garage on the South Side, and had traveled the world. He had a degree from Cambridge, and he came to the U.S. to Lightfoot City to study and was gunned down. And she wants to parrot Democrat talking points about racism instead of actually fixing the problem.
When I saw that, I was shocked, given, just looking at the stats. I mean, if you even just go back to this past weekend, the Chicago Tribune was wrote that at least 108 people were shot in Chicago over the long Independence Day weekend, including 2 police officers, to your point earlier, and children. Children are being in the crossfire, or they're being, shot and killed. And it's just so tragic. And do you see it getting better? I mean, would you consider leaving the university? I know you're a senior. And how do you think this is going to impact, future classes for the University of Chicago?
Right. Well, it's a really tough question. I mean, because as I say in my article, outside my little family of 4, my parents and my brother, Chicago is what feels like home to me. I mean, I love it there. I tell people that I live in Chicago. I have an apartment there with a friend who's currently taking the CTA for her banking internship downtown, like Max. And I mean, it's horrifying what's happening to the city, but I want to be there this fall. And so, I've been talking to my parents about it, and they're so worried. They keep asking me when I'm going to get out of the city. And, I've had parents of incoming students, incoming freshmen reach out to me and say, hey, am I crazy for sending my kids to U Chicago, or my child to U Chicago? What should I do? And the heartbreaking thing is that I don't have the answers, because these crimes continue to occur, and they're so random and senseless. And you can try to be careful and try to go to safer areas, but as we've seen in just the last week, you can be just on public transportation when you can be murdered. And I mean, a 60-something-year-old man was knifed to death on a bus over the weekend. And again, on public transportation, on a public CTA bus, he was murdered. So it's really, really tricky, because you shouldn't have to put your life on the line to go to class or to live in Chicago. For all Chicago residents, it's just obscene.
Yeah, I mean, it's just heartbreaking. I've never been to Chicago. I've heard it's a beautiful city, though. And like you were just pointing out, it feels like home, I'm sure, to a lot of people. And to see so much crime going on is just heartbreaking. And, to see anyone getting killed, anyone being injured. Audrey, I so appreciate you coming on to talk about this. To my knowledge, this case is still being investigated and no arrests have been made. If there are any updates, I'd love to have you back on to talk about that and how the community continues to cope with Max's death. So thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm grateful for the opportunity to talk to you about this. It's really important. So thank you.